Welcome to Fireside Gaming. I'm Billum, and this time around I want to talk to you about Pokemon Snap. This is a photography game developed by HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo 64 back in 1999. I originally got it as a birthday gift, but I don't think it was until a couple of years after its original release. No matter the case, I fell right into the game since Pokemon was all the rage and I was a massive fan. Seriously, does anyone else remember memorizing the original 151 Pokemon in order? That was such a huge accomplishment for me back in the day, and now I can't even be bothered to remember what I had for lunch half the time. Either way, did you know that Pokemon Snap didn't start out as a Pokemon game? I had no idea until looking up info for this review. It was originally going to be called Jack and the Beanstalk, but switched over to the Pokemon theme as the developers were having trouble creating a game with scenes players would want to take pictures of. Considering Pokemon's recent success at the time, it made sense to switch gears away from the game's original design. Pokemon Snap was also going to get a Nintendo 64 Double D version as well, but the failure of that add-on made sure this never came to be. Considering all the difficulties surrounding the development of this game, as well as the fact that it didn't get a sequel for more than 20 years, you'd almost think that Pokemon Snap was a failure. But it's not. Pokemon Snap was a commercial and critical success that even featured a campaign allowing players to take their cartridges to Blockbuster, rest in peace, and print out pictures they took of Pokemon. I never got to do this as a kid since my small town, technically a village, couldn't have supported a Blockbuster, but I can't help but think of this as an incredibly cool concept. So what about the game itself? Is Pokemon Snap still worth playing nearly 23 years after its original release? Let's find out. Oh, and spoilers by the way. The story of Pokemon Snap is a simple one, with players taking on the role of Todd Snap. He's a Pokemon photographer that's teamed up with Professor Oak to take pictures of Pokemon inhabiting Pokemon Island. He does so by riding 01, an advanced motorized vehicle, through preset paths on the island. This sees Todd taking pictures from 7 unique locations around the island, and he'll have to visit each of them multiple times if he wants to learn more about the secrets of Pokemon Island. That's due to how Pokemon Snap handles rewarding items. Todd starts out the game with just his camera, but will get more upgrades from Professor Oak along the way. That includes Pokemon food for luring Pokemon to different locations, pester balls that can uncover hidden Pokemon or just plainly annoy them, the Pokeflute, which can wake sleeping Pokemon or cause others to dance, as well as the ability to accelerate the 01 to progress through levels faster on subsequent visits. Instead of giving these to players at the start of the game, Professor Oak gives them to Todd after he has achieved certain goals. This ensures that players have to revisit previous levels, but it doesn't feel like padding in my opinion. That's due to how fast players can progress through levels, as well as the ability to take extra pictures of new Pokemon with these items. And even with players having to go through levels more than once, Pokemon Snap isn't a long game. I clocked in about 2.5 hours of play for this run, but I've also played through the game several times, so that might not be the most accurate time. Sure, if you're just trying to see the end credits, I could see how having to revisit previous levels could be annoying. But if that's your goal going into Pokemon Snap, then you're missing the point of the game. It's all about setting up perfect situations to take the best pictures of Pokemon. In many ways, Pokemon Snap is actually a puzzle game that rewards players for their hard work with the perfect scene to take a picture of. I say this because there are legitimate puzzles for players to solve. These are mostly simple but can lead players down alternate paths, which are what progress them to new levels. There's a collection of Pokemon signs that players also have to collect before they can take on the final level of the game. Collecting these signs is simple enough with there being 6 of them or 1 in each level. While some are a little more hidden than others, most of them have probably already been seen by players during their previous trips through the courses. When Todd finally has all of these Pokemon signs, he's ready to tackle the final challenge of Pokemon Island, capturing a picture of Mew. This requires him to break through Mew's shield, which blocks pictures Todd tries to take. Doing so finally lets us get a good picture of the critter and impress Professor Oak one last time before the credits roll. I have to stress just how big of a deal it was to interact with Mew in Pokemon Snap. He's this legendary or mythical Pokemon that's not often seen. Yet we get an upfront view of him in this game, and it didn't even require using strength on a truck 100 times. Trust me when I say this was an incredibly cool reward that blew me away as a kid. But it's not just seeing Mew that makes Pokemon Snap such a rewarding game. As I already said, the real fun comes from uncovering all of the game's secrets while taking pictures of your favorite Pokemon. At least, hopefully your favorite Pokemon are in the game. Of the 151 Generation 1 Pokemon, 63 are present in the game. That's not a bad number at all, and it's a good variety of Pokemon as well as some of their evolutions to take pictures of. While Pokemon Snap may not look the best by today's standards, I do think it holds up well enough. That's due to Nintendo's preference for simple textures on the N64. It keeps things from getting muddy looking, which is a problem that some games from this generation have when played on modern TVs. The soundtrack for Pokemon Snap is also fun to listen to while playing. Each of the game's courses have their own music, and they fit well with the settings. It's enjoyable background music, and that's all it needs to be. Overall, Pokemon Snap is still a good game to go back and play today. Don't get me wrong, it's much simpler than the recently released new Pokemon Snap, but still offers its own enjoyment for fans of the Pokemon franchise. And for me personally, it's undoubtedly a nostalgia trip that I enjoy taking every few years. If you want to play Pokemon Snap nowadays, you have a few options. There's obviously the original N64 release to consider, but it's also had some modern re-releases. The easiest of these to check out is the one on Nintendo Switch through the Switch Online Expansion Pass. Granted, I don't really care for subscription services, so that's not how I played it. Instead, I used my Wii U to play my Wii Virtual Console copy of the game. But the Wii eShop no longer allows purchases. Luckily, there is also a Virtual Console release of Pokemon Snap directly on the Wii U eShop, if you'd like to check it out that way. Just note that you'll have to jump through some hoops to add funds to your wallet, and that the Wii U eShop is closing down March 27, 2023. Seriously, Nintendo, just bring Virtual Console to Switch already. Subscription models suck, and I just want the option of a one-time purchase. But that's a rant for another time. Thank you for stopping by for this retrospective of Pokemon Snap. And as always, take it easy.